Hello there, Andrea here with a video blog about the influence of social media on nutrition and eating habits. So it all started when I attended a symposium called Ambition Nutrition on Wednesday, May the 16th, 2018. And the third presenter of the day, registered dietitian Nishta Saxena, spoke about nutrition in real life. And her talk was all about food and nutrition in social media. So her presentation inspired me to dig a little deeper into the world of social media and its influence on people's view and interpretation of what healthy eating is, and if this is helping or hindering in real life. So I've given a detailed summary of this presentation along with more comments in a Facebook Live and a lesson for Nutrition Per Mentor members. If you are interested in viewing this and also in more of the fantastic content, consider the the exceptional $1 trial for 30 days that we have going on right now. So in this video blog now, my goal was to address some of the controversies surrounding the potential influence of social media on food beliefs and eating behavior, specifically as it relates to sharing food images and nutrition information. So I touch on a couple of misconceptions out there that keep getting propagated by consumers and healthcare providers alike, even though there is clear scientific evidence to the contrary. So give me a minute and I'll share that with you. So let's start by acknowledging that during the presentation that I watched last week, there was a valid concern raised that the general public or consumers get their information nowadays primarily through the internet, right? Who hasn't consulted Dr. Google? Who hasn't searched for a certain topic to find out, what kind of information is out there? I have. So it's a world, though, where everyone seems to have a say, and then someone with a deep knowledge or level education or credentials, that in the internet world doesn't really seem to matter as much, right? So one of the main sources of information in the internet world, as we all know, is social media. We're all pretty much, if we are on social media, and we are actually consulting social media, it will affect us. It's a matter of how much, depending on how much time we spend on social media. And compounding this issue is that 75% of people, so 3/4 of people, don't even check to see where the information came from or when the information was posted. So they don't check the source or the date. Now, there is a positive to all this in that it's great that people are interested in learning more about how to feed themselves healthy, nourishing food, as evidenced by the main areas that people search for: information on healthy food preparation, how to choose ingredients, and also specific information about healthy foods. So people are interested in knowing how to make themselves healthier through food. And you would think that that is great news. However, there is a bit of a disconnect. Even though there's a great amount of quote-unquote research being done by people on the internet, and this is evidenced by the global usage of social media that has increased from, would you believe, 90 minutes average per person per day in 2012 to about 135 minutes per person per day average in 2017, right? That's a lot of time spent on social media. And you can add to that the other time that's spent just Googling things. Now, in contrast, Canadians spend on average less than 30 minutes on food preparation daily. So even though people are searching for information on how to eat healthier, they seemingly are not executing what they've learned. So there is a disconnect there. Now, I did ask, I had a post on the Nutrition Per Mentor business page about the perfect food pictures, right? So what is the potential issue with these perfect food pictures? The thing is that social media has an impact on how people think about food in general. And Instagram is one of the most popular sources of inspiration for people who are into food and who are health conscious. But is that influence, the Instagram influence, is it a good or a bad thing? And does this hashtag InstaFood that you see always taste good? So in preparation for this blog, I asked Nutrition Pro Mentor members to share what they thought of the seemingly perfect food images posted on Instagram, of which the ever-present smoothie bowl with various elegantly placed toppings seems to be the worst offender. So I posted with the picture that I'm writing a blog on the impact of social media on eating habits and whether certain posts inspire change or make people feel so far removed from that depicted ideal that they don't even try to improve their eating habits, especially those seemingly perfect, quote unquote, food images on Instagram. So what do you think? Helpful or harmful? And Luana commented, they can be harmful if ingredients are given that are expensive and the majority don't buy. And Ricky added, I'm a nutritionist and I probably eat or have eaten all those special ingredients, and it still drives me crazy to see all the perfection on Instagram food. Someone I know calls them the shiny happy people because they present their food as 100% organic, superfoods, gorgeous, everything with added maca and chaga mushrooms and elixirs instead of drinks. I could see how it would be very intimidating to anyone who didn't eat that way. I got so fed up at one point that I posted this on Instagram. LOL. And Vanessa posted, I think ideal, overly beautiful staged photos can be intimidating or seem unrealistic. I think the ideal, authentic work in progress can be really effective and motivating. Life is generally slightly messy at best, so why not be real about it and put to use? And Tara added, it really doesn't bother me what other people's food looks like. I don't get caught up with perfection. And Carol had the final say, if you love to cook, it will inspire you. If you hate to cook, you likely won't bother. I'm finding a thread in my clients. They don't cook, and this would turn them off. However, for me, it might motivate me. I think Carol hit the nail on the head with that last comment. Most people actually do not know how to cook because they have not been taught how. And now it seems intimidating and overly difficult to start learning. Now, my daughter chimed in on this as well, and she was saying that she knows a lot of people her age, so she's 19, who will look at the beautiful posts on Instagram, and then even though they might not make it themselves, they go to a place where they can buy it and will have it that way. And I know that sometimes, she'll make smoothies at home and decorate it nicely sometimes, and sometimes, she'll just drink it right out of the container. So it really depends. And I think the key here is to help people with how to make it as well. So it's not just about showing them nice pictures and have fancy ingredients. It's about showing them how to do it with simple ingredients as a base, and then with optional added, do the fancy maca powder and whatnot as an option, right? Just a thought. And feel free to add your comments about this, and the link is in the notes. Okay, so there is evidence, however, to strongly suggest that the more you look at food that is perfectly curated for images, the less likely you are to prepare food. So someone actually studied this stuff, and I guess the consensus is the general public is in that boat, is less likely to prepare the food the more they look at pictures of perfectly curated food for images. So in other words, making the food images look too perfect discourages people from actually preparing the food. And that happens to be the opposite of what we as holistic nutrition professionals have been led to believe, because some of us want to post pictures of yummy, delicious food to entice potential customers to engage with us and build our businesses as a result. So I know I've paid for a course on how to create beautiful Instagram pictures. I don't know about you, but all those courses and tutorials out there on how to take these perfect pictures staged of the food you've prepared, don't worry about that. The verdict is no need to stage the food. Show, and I would suggest, show your kitchen, show how it really looks when you're preparing the food. Maybe, tidy up a little bit, but don't make it too perfect. Show the resulting dish as well, in whatever form that it turned out to be, and describe how delicious it is in the notes. Now, of course, you still want to make sure that people can see what's in the picture. So you want to make sure that it's not blurry, that it's, got some lighting in there, so that they can make out what's in the image. Other than that, just be yourself and let the food be itself. It helps if you describe how delicious the dish turned out to be, what ingredients you used, and directions for your dish would be helpful too in the description of the image, or at least something about where people can go to get the recipe and directions. And this would be really helpful, and you'll be so much more relatable. Remember, the food does not need to look perfect to be delicious, and I think most people get that. And there is another issue that has been brought up in research, that constant exposure to delicious looking food might, even though it might seem harmless, can have a real lasting effect on people. So there was a review of studies done in it was published in Brain and Cognition, and it suggests that regular exposure to these virtual foods, right, these images of foods, along with the array of neural, physiological, and behavioral responses linked to it, can exacerbate our physiological hunger too frequently, so too often. So there's a connection between our eyes and our hunger, our mental hunger, if you will. So this can encourage eating even if you're not actually hungry, and that can potentially lead to weight gain. So let's kind of backtrack a little bit and let's talk about that smoothie bowl and fruit in particular, because some people, even some nutrition professionals, have the misconception that fruit should be avoided or limited because of its sugar content, because of its fructose content, putting it in the same category as refined sugar and, stuff like high fructose corn syrup and other added isolated sugars. And that really bugs me, because it's not true. The sugar in fruit, if you keep it in the fruit and don't, pull it out, isolate it, and concentrate it, if it's still contained in the fruit matrix, it has fiber and phytonutrients like polyphenols and bioflavonoids and so on, and there were at least 2 studies that I know of now that looked at a fruit intake of up to 20 servings a day, which is the equivalent of about 200 grams of fructose, or what would be in 8 cans of soda pop, or, soda, if you will. And one of these was done very recently, or published very recently, by Dr. David Jenkins and his team out of University of Toronto. And they show that there was no detrimental effects of consuming that much fructose in its natural form from fruit, in the fruit. I got to emphasize that, right? It's not fruit sugar that was isolated. It's the fruit that they were eating. And in fact, quite the opposite was true. They were even able to show a significant 38-point drop in LDL cholesterol levels in only 2 weeks. Amazing, amazing stuff. There was also a study done comparing 2 energy-restricted diets, one that had a low fructose content, and then against one that was a moderate natural fructose diet, meaning from fruit, right? And people actually lost more weight on the diet with the fruit than the diet without. Fantastic. There were also some studies done to find out if, what is it in fruit that's imparting that glucose balancing effect? Is it the fiber or is it something else in the fruit? So these researchers added fruit puree to a solution that contained 3 tablespoons of refined sugar in water versus, so they compared the fruit puree with the sugar against the juice of the berry. I believe they used blackcurrants and lingonberries. So puree versus the juice added to 3 tablespoons of sugar, and they compared that. And both had the beneficial effects on blood sugar. So it's not just the fiber. There are plant nutrients in fruits, polyphenols, that contribute to the healthful effect. Now you may be wondering if this even applies to type 2 diabetics, as some health professionals recommend that type 2 diabetics restrict their fruit intake. There was a study done where diabetics were randomized into 2 groups. One group was instructed to eat at least 2 servings of fruit a day, so 2 servings minimum, and the other group was instructed to eat no more than 2 servings of fruit a day, so maximum 2 servings of fruit. And the end result was that one group had double the amount of equivalent fructose grams than the other group. And the result was that there was no effect on diabetes or weight control or, diabetic markers in either diet, prompting the researchers to state that the intake of fruit should not be restricted in patients with type 2 diabetes. So no need to fear fruit. No need to shy away from smoothie bowls or even freshly pressed fruit juices. No more fearing fruit. Okay, by the way, the references are in the text version of this blog. Now, there's another concern raised during the presentation, and we see this out in, healthcare professionals are voicing their concern about the unnecessary and trendy detoxes and cleanses. Okay, so yes, healthcare professionals often take issue with what they refer to as quote-unquote trendy and unnecessary detoxes and cleanses. And some of this overreaction relates to juicing, which is thought to wreak havoc on our systems, causing high blood sugar, dizziness, muscle weakness, something that I just finished clarifying a moment ago. Yeah, and there's also the often stated party line that our bodies are equipped with all the detoxifying equipment they need, our liver and kidneys, and a drive for homeostasis. No special diets or supplements needed, right? You've probably have heard this as well. Well, all right, so yes, we have detoxification organs. And yes, our bodies are designed to be able to detox normally and naturally on their own. However, you knew there was a however, right? Detoxing and cleansing protocols are not necessarily unnecessary. Okay, let me clarify. So the purpose of detoxing and cleansing protocols is to help our bodies in those efforts, so to facilitate the actions, the naturally occurring actions in our bodies of detoxing and cleansing. And by avoiding the things that add toxins to our bodies and adding in plenty of foods that support detoxification functions. That would be the protocol, right? And sometimes even also adding in herbs and other supplements that help out in those regards. Now, it is fair to raise a red flag about this, however, because there are different ways to go about supporting the body in its detoxing and cleansing functions, and not all protocols are right for all people. And some protocols can do more harm than good. So it is important to meet the person where they are at. And any improvement in diet, for example, will help someone detox. However, if any changes are too drastic or an extreme, think of someone who's eating a standard American diet and then they try to do a master cleanse for 10 days. That can lead to worsening health and even can potentially precipitate a disease, right? If the release of toxins from storage in the body overwhelms the detoxification channels, then the toxins will recirculate in the body and potentially cause harm. So when people see images or posts about this or that detox or cleanse, and then they try it on themselves without the guidance of someone who is well educated in this area, like holistic nutrition professionals, there is a real potential for harm. It is a real issue. Now, there are some other concerns, right? Social media is full of posts that promote unhealthy eating habits. And these are referred to as, I love this, hashtag food porn. And these are mostly coming from brands and consumers. Now, research published in the journal Brain and Cognition, again, provides evidence that just merely looking at food porn can lead to weight gain. Now, specifically, the researchers questioned the impact our increasing exposure to images of desirable foods in these digital interfaces, right, social media might be having. They asked a question: might these not inadvertently be exacerbating our desire for food or our visual hunger? And I already told you the answer was yes. Now, studies show that what happens after seeing food porn photos is harmful. And when people look at these pictures, usually of food that is not necessarily healthy and usually high in calories, their bodies release hormones that tell them to eat. So there's a physiological response. And these hormones can even make people's hearts race, can make insulin levels spike and mouth water. So that explains why, see, my mouth is watering right now just talking about it. This explains why Instagram users are then very likely to desire and then look for those unhealthy foods that they just saw. Incredible, right? There are also posts about very restrictive diets, which may or may not be appropriate or necessary for a specific individual. There are some posts encouraging intermittent fasting, too, that can be taken to extremes and be dangerous for some people to undertake without the supervision of a healthcare professional. There are posts about the ketogenic diet and dishes and snacks that, without the proper context, can cause a consumer to have the opposite of the intended effect, which is typically weight loss. So if they're not incorporating those foods as part of a ketogenic lifestyle, then they're not going to get that effect. So by context, I mean how much to eat, as part of what dietary protocol, undertaken for how long, and so on. So no matter how healthful the ingredients of the recipe are, it needs to come with context. You get the idea, right? So there are some issues there. And there are definitely other potential pitfalls to address, but we'd be here all day. But wait, there's a positive side to social media. You'll be happy to know. Overall, social media can be a good source of inspiration for healthy eating. Even though there are some extremes, right? There are also posts with accurate and helpful information, with recipes included with the food images, or at least where to find the recipes, as well as posts encouraging us to have a healthy relationship with food and tune in to our bodies and listen to our satiety signals. So overall, social media can be helpful, and it should be considered a very powerful tool that should be treated with respect. As with all tools, how it is used will determine whether or not it is helpful or harmful. It can be a major source of education and inspiration, but it can also be a source of false or misleading or outdated information and can add to the confusion out there. So we should all be asking ourselves, what am I posting? Is it useful? Am I making a positive impact on someone today, or am I spreading negativity? So to be part of the solution and not the problem, keep your images and posts real. Please share accurate and helpful information. Spend that extra time to find out some resources and references. Especially share recipes and food preparation tips to help those out there who are intimidated by cooking and haven't been taught how to prepare food. So as holistic nutrition professionals, we have the responsibility to be helpful with our social media posts, and emphasis on that helpful part. Also, please, please, please help dispel the misconceptions out there. Give context if you're sharing recipes or images of dishes that are part of a specific dietary protocol, like, the ketogenic diet. Be clear about how or when or for whom this might be and not before. But above all, be yourself and post responsibly. Thank you so much for listening, and feel free to make any comments in the linked Facebook posts and Instagram posts. Until next time.